Hello, and welcome to my question and analysis brainstorming session. I've divided my questions into two initial main categories, those that deal with computational thinking and those that do not. You'll see that those questions that do not deal with CT are varied. I have one question about the maker movement, one about CS's position in the general curriculum, and another one about inclusion in CS. I guess I have a lot of CT questions because at a recent conference for CS Ed graduate students, the joke was that if you put 20 computer scientists in a room together to talk about computational thinking, you'd end up with 20 different definitions of CT. So that was at the forefront of my mind this past week. And as a result, I also spent some extra time digging deeper into my questioning about CT by using the 5 whys process described in A More Beautiful Question. My first why question was, why can't computer scientists agree on a CT definition? Assuming the answer is that it's because they have different definitions, then the second question was, why do they have different definitions of CT? And closely related to that second question is my third, which was, how do computer scientists come up with a definition of CT? So if the answer to those two questions is that they have different definitions because they had different formative experiences with CS, then the fourth question was what factors lead to the development of a computer scientist's definition of CT? And the last why question was, how is it that new mental processes get identified and defined at all? Okay, for my second categorization, I think it would make sense to sort my questions by what question word I used at the beginning of each question. So I've got 4 why questions, 2 what ifs, 2 hows, 3 whats, and 2 ises. The why questions appear to focus on the current state of things in CS. The what if questions both imagine an alternative future for CS, which is pretty interesting. The 2 how questions were the result of my 5 whys process for CT. My what questions appear to ask for information that's needed to solve current problems, and the is questions seem to concern themselves with confirming some random theories I have. The how questions seem to be similar to the why questions, and I think they could have easily been phrased as why questions. Okay, the last category. The other thing I've noticed is that I have a lot of questions about or directed to computer scientists. So what if I categorize these questions by which actors or stakeholders are involved in them? So the final categorization by stakeholder ends up with 6 questions dedicated to computer scientists, 1 question each for cognitive scientists, about underrepresented minorities, then students, then teachers, and then 3 questions that don't really have an actor at all. So these questions show that my main preoccupation is the relationship between computational thinking and computer scientists. And I would say my questions reveal that I'm quite bothered by the current state of things. The other thing that really captures my attention are my 2 what if questions, which are kind of out there, but they're really just ambitious, imaginative, kind of crazy questions, and maybe those are the kinds of questions I need to ask about computational thinking and computer scientists. So what if questions can I ask about computational thinking and computer scientists?